What is a DSCR loan, a debt service coverage ratio loan? Where are we putting Mr. Gorgeous? I don't know. Can I really get unlimited income? I'll put Mr. Gorgeous. I don't know. You guys could do, I don't know if you could do it wherever you want. Can I really get, what is a DSCR loan? A debt service coverage ratio loan. Can I really get unlimited no income verification loans to buy rental properties as a real estate investor? Is that really possible? Today, you're going to find out the answer to that. Guys, a DSCR loan, what you're going to learn today, can I really get unlimited no income verification loans to buy rental properties? Here's the thing. Top question about DSCR loans, according to you guys, what does DSCR stand for? Debt service coverage ratio, like I just said. Do I need a DSCR loan to invest in real estate? How can I qualify for a DSCR loan? Is DSCR loan a good idea or a bad idea? Do real estate investors need DSCR loans? How can I get a DSCR loan? How do I find a good DSCR loan lender? That's easy. Go to bigria.com/people. Go to our people page. We have it there. Here's my promise to you. Okay, this class will be a master class on DSCR loans. By the time we're done here, you're going to know what a DSCR loan is. You're going to know how to get a DSCR loan and what to look for. You're going to know how to use DSCR loans to create a passive income of $30,000 a month and a lot more, and how to turn $15,000 into $4.5 million at 8%. Remember, $30,000 a month. The formula for passive income is equity times production. You want to make $30,000 a month, you need $4.5 million at 8%. Know why we use 8%? You can go through our other classes. They're all free. We've talked about how to do that, exactly how long it's going to take you, and how to create an asset acquisition schedule. This crash course will put you generations ahead of any competition at Nobody Mountain. I promise you guys, you want to understand how to get to $30,000 a month at breakneck speed, light speed as a real estate investor. This class will help you do that. Our other stuff will help you do that. This is one of our 52 tips for passive income. How to create $30,000 a month passive income. You have 52 tips. I don't know which one this is at. Oz and Mayo, Rams and KO, bigria.com. My life changed. I have my son who has special needs. That's what me and Anna started this site for, to help parents with special needs and help real estate investors create $30,000 a month of passive income through real estate investing and business buying, being able to buy companies, doing all that stuff with no money down, no credit loans, no credit, no loans, no check, no banks, being able to do the no credit checks, any of that stuff. Go to bigria.com for more. We're the number one channel, the number one real estate media company in the Midwest, number one channel, Indiana real estate, Missouri, all that stuff. That's all thanks to you. Thank you so much for all that. I want to make sure I say that every time. I just want to hurry up and get all that out of the way, but thank you. It's all for you guys. So DSCR loan is a type of asset-based lending. What does that mean? ABL lending, asset-based lending, means that the bank will look at the income of the asset instead of you. So yes, you can get these loans and you can do this without having your credit checked, right? They will not check, or not without having your income verification. That's how you can get these rental loans. But you have to understand how to do this correctly. So first, you have two things here. The DSCR. First is the debt service. This is the mortgage payment. Then is the coverage ratio. How much of that mortgage payment does the rent cover? That's what a DSCR loan is. It's a ratio of how much it covers. So you have to understand this ratio in order to do these deals. If you don't get this right, if you don't understand the ratio, you get this ratio wrong, you can lose a lot of money. All the horror stories you hear about real estate investors going belly up because of the interest rates, I'm going to cover that today and how to avoid that from happening. There's basically three possibilities when we get to this ratio. Number one is that you have negative, or you have a neutral, or you have positive. What that really means is that it's less than 1%, or it's less than 100%, it's equal to 100%, or it is more than 100%. So in other words, if we think of it this way, if we take the rent of this property, right? So we're asking ourselves, what is the mortgage payment compared to the rent? So in this case, the negative, it means the rent is less than the debt service. This is the case in hot markets, or people that did stupid stuff in Midwest markets. But in hot markets, or in rapidly appreciating markets, you're always going to have the rent that's going to be less than the mortgage payment. That's often what happens. That's not usual. If you have $1 million house that rents for $2,500 a month, of course, the $2,500 a month rent is going to be less than your mortgage payment, right? And that happens many times on the coast. We're going to be talking about Midwest properties, 1% houses though. So that's not going to be the case. We do not want to focus on properties where the rent is less than the debt service. We don't want to even focus on properties where the rent is equal to debt service. We want to focus on properties here where the rent is more than the debt service. This is what we want to have. Positive. A good DSCR lender in the Midwest is going to want to see a positive. They're going to want to see the rent that is more than the debt service. But keep in mind, there are DSCR loans that work with negative or neutral. That's going to be different markets. We want to focus on 1% houses. That way we know we can get 8% for our $4.5 million to make our $30,000 a month. We want to focus on 1% houses in the Midwest. That means $100,000 to $150,000 houses that have positive rent. It means that our rent is going to be more than the debt service. It's going to be more than our mortgage payment. But that's an interesting question though, right? So first we focus on the positive. This is where we want to be. But are we going to talk, okay, so what exactly is the debt service? You're so far ahead of me. These guys are so great when they put these together. What exactly is included in the debt service? Mr. Gorgeous goes down here. This could include the principal, interest, taxes, insurance, HOA fees, homeowners association fees, and these can be kind of crazy. Recurring dues of any kind, maintenance, airspace, ground rights, security, transportation, garaging, maid services, if that's required, tutoring, emergency services, airway charges. Sometimes we have heated roads in the Midwest, and that may be something you're paying. We don't really know what the lender is going to include. That's why it's so important you have a good, I know you mentioned this before, you were saying that a second ago. Did you put that on there? I don't know. Did you put that? So the short answer is it depends. Maybe the mortgage broker is going to include all that stuff. Maybe they won't. But the biggest factor in getting the best deals is, you did put it in there. Guys, this is the most important sentence we have to talk about today. The biggest factor in getting the best deals is your relationship with the lender. Okay, you got to build a good relationship. If you work with us, we build all kinds of solid relationships. Team Anna here, Rachel, Coach, all these guys are doing a great job with our lenders. So when we talk to our lenders, we get special deals and special terms because they know that we know how to manage the property. You have to do that with your lender as well. Whatever programs they have on their website, whatever they say the ratio needs to be, guys, all that stuff is negotiable. You've got to be in a position. The best way to get money is the best way it is to get so many things in life is to not need it. And when you're somebody who has a solid business, solid management, you're doing solid deals, most importantly, you're generating leads like nobody else is able to do, and you're able to build relationships like nobody else is able to do, guys, they're going to be throwing money at you. They're going to be changing their terms, bending over backwards to work with you. That's what you need. Because the fact is, we don't want to be paying airspace or, to heat roads. We don't want to pay that. We want just principal, interest, tax, insurance, and even that we kind of try to get rid of too. But we want to have as low of a payment as possible. So when they say debt service, we want them to include as little as possible in that amount. Because remember, our rent has to be above that. So the higher that payment is, the more that we have to charge in rent, and the harder it's going to be to do a deal. So they're going to have different factors here we're going to talk about. Okay, so let's say here's an example. Let's say you buy a property with hard money loan, $80,000 with a hard money loan, right? Then you rehab it over here for $20,000, or you rehab the property over here for $20,000, right? So down here, you rehab the property for $20,000. Then you're going to rent, or you keep a track of it. You put them wherever you want. Mr. Gorgeous is always taking up this, always soaking up the limelight. So first you buy the property for 80 grand. Then you rehab it for 20 grand. Now you rent it for $1,500 a month. We refinance. There's so many deal dissections we've done. This is one of them. Refinance after 90 days. You refinance $180,000 with the value of the property is $180,000. We refinance at 80%. That means we're going to get $144,000 out. Now, sometimes they'll say we only refinance at 75% LTV, which means it wouldn't be $144,000, right? It'd be 75%. But in our case, we usually do 80% refinancing. And sometimes lenders will say, you can't refinance that property. A DSCR lender will say in 90 days, you need to wait 6 months. That's why it's important you have a good team that has lenders that can refinance it in 90 days. We can wait 6 months sometimes too, but usually 90 days, 75 to 80% is where we want to be. So in this case, think about this. We're buying the property for 80 grand. We put 20 grand in rehab. Now we rent it for 1,500. This is the BRRRR. Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. We refinance after 90 days. So now 180 grand, we pull out $144,000. Now we repeat with over $30,000 more than when you started. Because remember, you have the $144,000 refinance and your total cost is $110,000. That's the $80,000 from the purchase, 20 grand in rehab, and then the closing costs and stuff. So the 110 grand is your total cost, but you pulled out 144 grand, right? So now you've got over $30,000 more than what you started. So if you started out with X, you've got X plus $30,000. Now that's not profit because it is a loan, this $30,000. But that loan, again, is being covered by your rent, right? So here's another case of this, or another example. So again, you buy it at $80,000. This was an example of Beverly. You rehab for $20,000, rent for $1,500, refinance at 144 grand, and now you have $30,000 more. This is an example of what we would do. And where the DSCR loan comes into play is right here, that 90-day refinance, the DSCR loan, because you're going to go to the bank and you're going to say, listen, I have a hard money loan on this property. I fixed up the property. I rented it out for $1,500 a month. Now I want to refinance it and not pay this hard money loan. The DSCR lender is going to look at that property and they're going to have two criteria. They're going to say, what is the LTV that we want to use? Usually it's going to be 75 to 80%. Sometimes they'll say, listen, if you want to purchase a property, we'll go up to 80% or 85% or whatever. But if you want to refinance and pull cash out, we're only going to do 70% or 75%, and you have to wait 6 months or 90 days. We usually use 90 days, 75 to 80% is what we do. So we wait 90, our DSCR lenders will say we refinance in 90 days at 75 to 80%. So what happens now, remember, you put the property in for 80,000, fix it up for 20, maybe other closing costs. So our total cost is 105 to 120,000. Our appraisal is now 180,000. So now the DSCR lender says, okay, we'll give you a property, two criteria. Number one, we're not going to give you more than 80% of the LTV, which means we're at 144,000. But on top of that, that mortgage to rent ratio. So what they'll say is the rent usually has to be 10 to 25% above the debt service. And again, we talked about what could be included in that debt service. But in this case, they're going to say, listen, your debt service is X. Let's say $1,000 a month. That means your rent must be 10 to 25%, must be $100 above it or $250 above. So it must be $1,100 to $1,250 above the debt service. And as long as you fit those two criteria, you don't have to do any income verification and you can get the loan and do the deal. That makes sense? So that's how you can get $30,000 pull out with no income verification, because you're able to match these two criteria. Number one is it's 75 to 80%. And number two, that you're renting 10 to 25%. Different lenders will have a different number that they want to use. Some will say 10%, some will say 25%. So you've got to talk to your lender or go to bigria.com/people. We have a whole list of people you can work with there. Totally free, by the way. And there's a bunch of DSCR lenders that'll do that. But the very cool thing about this is that you can do an unlimited number of deals. As long as you buy correctly, you'll have unlimited deals. So it sounds great. What's the risk? What are the things that you need to worry about here? Because, it might sound like it's all peaches and cream. So in that example, we use Beverly. We have hundreds of deal dissection series. We use real life examples. Guys, one of the things Ann and I talked about is we're so sick of hearing people talk about these deals without real life examples. So we use real life examples, and we don't just do one deal. We tell you what goes wrong with it. Sometimes something costs more than it should. Sometimes a renter screwed something up. So we cover all the costs in those deal dissection series. So it's not not just me giving you some hypothetical. Both of those classes, we have over 200 classes of real life deals. We go into here's how much the hard money cost, here's how much the closing cost, here was the holding cost, here was what we had to pay extra, here's where we screwed this up, here's where somebody did this or that. We go over all the details so you can see real life examples. In this case, our all-in cost was $120,000. Our ARV was $180,000 and 80% we're pulling out $134. This was a different, I think this was Brooks or something. We covered the deal. Go to thebigria.com. We have all the lists there. So the investor in this case is going to walk away with $14,000, right? Your all-in cost is $120. That's after the rehab, after the holding cost, everything, right? You close all the closing costs, everything. $120,000. Our ARV is $180,000. DSCR lender says we'll give you 80% of that, $134. So now you're going to pull out $14,000, right? That's what it looks like. And yes, as long as our ratio is met, that we were over 10%. In this case, the $134,000 that we're pulling out right here, right? That $134,000, that payment is going to be $1,000 a month. So the rent has to be $1,100 a month or 10% more. In this case, that worked out. So that's good. In this case, the investor did. We did the hero walked away with $14,000. So they started that deal with X. Now they've got the property and they got all their money back plus $14,000. But that's not profit. Remember, it's a loan they have to pay back. Does this make sense? Am I going too fast? This all makes sense? This is super important to understand what I just said here. Our all-in cost is $120,000. That includes a purchase, refinance, closing costs, rehab, everything, right? And again, if you want more detail, I don't want to give you an overview. It's like, oh, well, wait, how much did this cost? Guys, go through our deal dissection series. We cover every single cost. We break down every cost. So hundreds of videos we've made. I'm not just glossing over this really in depth. Go to bigria.com, check it out. Real life examples of deals. So $120,000 is a whole all cost. $180,000 is a value. We pull out 80%, $134,000. So keep in mind, this is $14,000 you're going to get back. It's not a profit because you have to make payments on it, but the payments made 10% above that. So our rent is $1,100 a month, so we're well over 10%. Actually, the rent was more than that, but you guys get the idea. The lender now will give us the money. So that seems like a great deal, but here's why everyone's going out of business. Why people say, no, the BRRRR method is dead and DSCR loans are dead. Because what happens if the interest rate changes, right? Well, take a look at the same deal. The same situation, all-in cost $120,000, right? That's right. $180,000 the value, $134,000. That means they'll give you 80%. But the same deal, but the rates went higher. So now that $134,000 loan help here, that payment is $1,200 a month. Not that much more, but what does that mean? To get that payment down to $1,000 a month, because remember, you've already rented out for $1,100. What are you going to do? Evict the tenant? You've already rented out for $1,100. But now they're saying, remember, their ratio is 10%. So they're saying you need to rent the property for $120 more than the $1,200 a month payment. Get what I'm saying? So you've already rented the property out for $1,100 a month. How are you going to turn around and rent it out for $1,300+ a month? You have to evict the tenant, but also now that DSCR lender is going to say, hey, wait a second, let's look at the market rent. The market rent that area is only $1,100. So we got a problem here. And now to get that payment down to $1,000 where you need it to be because you're 10% above that, the mortgage has to be $110,000, not $134,000. So this is what's happening to investors because now, remember in that previous case, you were going to walk away with $14,000. Now you have to bring $10,000 because you owe $120. That's your cost and your hard money. So you have to bring $10,000 to closing. Now imagine if you have 4 or 5 deals like that. You have to bring 50, 60, 70 grand. This is why so many investors are getting in trouble and they're found themselves in soup. You guys understand what's happening here? The interest rate changes a little bit and now you thought you were pulling out 15, 20 grand. Well, you got to come up with 10 grand, right? So this is a real problem. This is why I said the relationship with the lender is so vital, so important because we don't go at 10%. We say 10%, but we go a lot higher. This property was actually rented for like $1,500. So we're covered, we're good. And that's why it's so important that you're able to do deals and you keep careful eye on your numbers because you want your lender to be like, you know what? Those guys know what they're doing. They've got everything they do is conservative. Every time they do a deal, it's better than it looks. It's a better deal than it looks like it's going to be a month. Is Mr. Gorgeous off the screen? You got to work. The only way you're going to be able to do deals consistently like this is to be able to generate leads like nobody else is and build relationships like nobody else is. So many people right now are going belly up and they're terrified of interest rates changing even more because these guys are in a lot of trouble. What are you going to do if you have to come up with 70 grand in order for you to refinance your deals? You're going to keep paying hard money? It's a crazy situation. You have to avoid it by generating leads and building relationships that you have your pick of the best deals. If you don't do that, guys, you're going to be in trouble and you're going to get in a lot of bad things can happen. So let's talk about the good news, the bad news with these DSCR loans. So bad news is number one, only 75 to 80% of LTV. Number two is high interest rate. They all, this is non-qualified. So obviously it's going to be high, but people, that's not a big deal. Prepayment penalties can be crazy, like 30% if you pay it off within 5 years. So you need to have a good relationship. We normally don't do that. We don't have prepayment penalties. If they do, they're not that bad. And it requires perfect credit. If your credit's even a little bit off, it has the same effect as the interest rate because now your payment goes up. And once we got to keep that DS part of the DSCR loan, that debt service payment as low as possible. We need perfect credit And if you don't have perfect interest rates, that's okay, but you got to have great rent. You want to keep low payments, high rent. That's what we want to keep doing. And very interest rate sensitive. Again, tiny change in interest rate. And now all these iBuy Homes guys are going out of business. I mean, there's so many of them. They're going belly up right now. I hate to see it, but guys, this is why it's happening. Now, the good news is, guys, they don't report this to your credit. So you can do an unlimited number of deals. This is why our heroes are able to go out to 20, 30 deals like this, no problem. And if you're pulling out 5, 10 grand, again, at first you want to pull out money so you can do the money recycle. You can take $50,000, go out and buy 20, 30 properties and have that same $50,000 back in your pocket, plus like $100,000 or $200,000. That $100,000, $200,000 is not profit. Remember, you have to pay that back. That's why as soon as possible, we want to take as little money out as possible. The best way to build a relationship with your lender is to not pull cash out. To say, you know what, I want to refinance, but I'm not going to pull cash out. I just want to pay off the hard money loan. My cash situation is so strong, I don't need money. And then again, they'll throw it at you when you don't need it. And then you want to have a ratio that is not just 10%, not 25%, but it's like 30, 40%. We have properties where our debt service is $900 and we've rented out for $1,800, right? They love it. We're almost twice as high, almost 200 times, almost 100% higher, not 10% or 20%, but 100% higher than the mortgage payment. That's the kind of relationship you want to have. Those are the kind of deals you want to have. There's no income verification. They're not going to look at your income, so you can do as many deals as you want and you don't have to worry about your income. No DTI. They don't report it to your TransUnion, Equifax, or Experian. So it won't affect you going out to go get a mortgage on your own property. This does not get reported. That's why you can do an unlimited number of deals. Forces deal accountability. It forces you to buy correctly, to make sure that you can rent these properties out for more than you're buying them. It allows you, but the best part of this is it's a combination. I always say to people, why would you ever flip real estate? Because I'm going to make money. Well, how much money would you make? X amount? What could you do with 80% of that? Wouldn't you do the same thing? Just do that. Never sell the property. The 400 formula, never sell anything. Buy the stuff, never sell it. So it allows you to cash out, to get cash out for your next deal without selling the property. That's the good news of the DSCR loan. So the most important thing again is that you got to build your team. DSCR loans can be great for creating 30 grand a month passive income. We talked about these in our how to create 30 grand a month as an out-of-state real estate investor with Indiana Real Estate. I talked about this 30 grand a month, $4.5 million at 8%. You know you're going to make 8% if you have 1% house because you're going to get 12% and your net should be 8% at the very least. You should do much better than that. This is how our heroes go out. If you do the math on that, $150,000 houses, you only need 30. We have heroes doing 5, 10, 15 in a matter of weeks and months, right? So because you can do unlimited number of deals as long as you buy correctly. You have to build your team. You have to buy correctly. You have to be able to buy these properties that are 1% houses. Go through my criteria. I made a whole nother class on that. 1% houses that you're able to buy at 75 to 80% minus 10 grand so that you can pull out 10 grand. Not that you want to, but you want to be able to. And you have to have management in place. You have to have either you or your team have the right policies for management. We talked about this on how to find perfect tenant and how to manage properties. We had all kinds of classes at bigria.com. Check it out, man. We've covered all this stuff in depth. It's not that difficult to do. You got to be able to generate leads, build your Nobody Mountain, build your compliance asset. You got to be able to generate leads so you have all the leads in your market. You can do unlimited number of deals. This is how we're doing it with our heroes right now. We can do basically an unlimited number of deals because we can turn on the machine. We know we can buy properties and we can get rents. We can get properties where the debt service is very low and the rent is very high. You need to be no more than 80% minus $10,000 into a property. So you should be able to buy the property, refinance it, rehab it, fix it up, rent it out, and you should be no more than 80%, 75% minus $10,000. Boomerang money. This is the whole point of the money recycler. And when we talk about we use the Burr method, but the money recyclers are kind of our twist on that using leverage. Go through our class. We talk about the physics of a lever, how we can use the same $50,000 to control not just one property. That's $150,000. Now you have a mechanical advantage of 3x. But if you control 2 properties, now you have 6x, right? If you control 3 properties, you see what's happening. You use that same 50 grand in controlling 20, 30 properties. So if you look at how much money you really need to do a deal, it comes out, we've done a class on this, about $15,000. You're going to do a DSCR loan that you want to have. You want to have 50 to 100 grand, but you can do it with less than 50. You can do it zero down to start out with, but eventually you're probably going to need about 15 grand. But as long as you recycle that money, that same 15 grand, you can keep recycling and get to 4.5 million at 8%. So if you started with 100 grand, we have our heroes that have done this, and in 6 to 12 months, they have $200,000. They have more the money than they started. Now that extra 100 grand is a loan, right? But it's being paid by the tenant, and they've got 20 houses. That's how the boomerang money works. Throw it out there. The money all comes back, and then some comes back with kids, right? And it's reproduced, and you've got 20 houses. Who doesn't want to do that? And it's 20 houses are all 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% above, sometimes 100% above your debt service. Does that make sense? This is why these DSCR loans are so attractive, and why if you build a business around this correctly, you can easily create 30 grand a month passive income. You need to have your own construction crews. But the most important thing here, guys, if you are an active real estate investor, great passive income, you have to be able to build models. Talked about models left and right. Models, the building block of everything we do here. You got to be able to create 10, 30 grand a month quickly with models. Go to bigria.com. We talk about all different models. This is the fastest, easiest way to make sure that you don't get in trouble, because you can go out and create 10, 20, 30 grand a month. First thing we do with the property, remember, every real estate investor should own a mortgage business. Every real estate investor should own a construction business. Every real estate investor should be buying other companies. You got to be buying companies. Work your way up the passive income pyramid. That's how you do it. Speaking of leadership, this is a little quote here from the Leadership Challenge, How to Make Extraordinary Things Happen in Organizations, James and Barry Posner. This is an interesting kind of thing here to keep in mind. Take this away from that. I appreciate you including this here. So we also found that in the best organizations, everyone, regardless of the title title position is encouraged to act like a leader. Remember, this whole process, you got to build your team. From your appraisers, your hard money lenders, your DSCR lenders, your team, your management team, your property, your construction crews. This is all about team management, team building. You got to do this correctly. If you're working with us, we've already built all these teams. You can be one of our heroes. Apply at bigria.com. Although we're not working with investors now, you've got to have the right team. Again, got to be able to generate leads like nobody else is doing and build relationships like nobody else is doing. You need to have a nobody mountain. Bigria.com is our nobody mountain. There's multiple pages, not just the website, but multiple pages on that site that are making our heroes 6 figures a month. That is a nobody mountain. So we know that like in the Indiana, the Missouri, the Midwest market, we're able to essentially go in, get as many deals as possible because we built our team. Anyway, come back to this. Check this quote. It's pretty cool. Challenge is the opportunity for greatness. Leadership is everyone's business. Of all the things that sustain a leader over time, love is the most. Where did Mr. Gorgeous go? Let's put Mr. Gorgeous up here. Where did you move him? Of all the things that sustain a leader over time, love is the most lasting. It's hard to imagine leaders getting up day after day, putting in the long hours and hard work it takes to get extraordinary things done without having their hearts in it. Love was the secret they found to leadership. The best kept secret of successful leaders is love. Staying in love with leading with the people who do the work, with what their organizations produce, and with those who honor the organization by using its products and services. It'd be great if I could read right. Love leadership is not an affair of the head. People commit to causes, not to plans. Leadership is an affair of the heart. Guys, this whole process of creating passive income and doing it for our special needs heroes, for our other stuff, this is people commit to the one line of that book, people commit to causes, not to plans. I remember when she said that, I love that. People commit to causes, not to plans. It's not about going out and making a bunch of money and doing things. It's about being able to create generational change, realizing the enormous suffering that people have gone through in the world in order for you and me to have this life, to be so comfortable here, to have these resources, being grateful. Look at America the way foreigners do, right? That's how you got to look at it. And if you can do that, you can emit causes. You can start creating causes, speak and traffic and ideas that stir men's blood. This is about so much more than just making money. Go to bigria.com, create generational changes, the #1 world's largest organization of special needs business owners. Tell us what causes you want to work on. We always want to hear from how people are using this stuff, not just to create passive income, but what causes you want to create. If you just want to create passive income to sit on a beach, it's not going to happen. People all the time email us, they say stuff like that it's not very helpful. It's not very exciting. What do you really want? It should be something that gives you chills, butterflies to talk about, because that is what will get people to commit to your cause, not to your plans. Bigria.com.